When the Gaming Commission originally was established in 1931, and I'll start by explaining to you what happened that started the Gaming Commission and gambling in Nevada in 1931. 1931, of course, was the depths of the Depression. That was rock bottom. And nobody had a job. Nobody had any money. All over the country. The interesting thing was that Nevada had already been in a depression before the Depression hit. So they got a double whammy. So the state of Nevada, the government of the state of Nevada, gets together the heads of the major families, the money families in Nevada, to sit around a table and say, hey guys, what are we going to do? We are in desperate straits. We got to do something. And after a lengthy conversation, they finally settled on two things. One, lower the residency from 6 months to 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, you can become a legal resident of the state of Nevada, which means you can get a divorce. All right? So people from all over the country who wanted a divorce, a quickie divorce, would go to Reno, Nevada, and there they would get their divorce for 6 weeks later. What are you going to do during that 6 weeks? How about legalized gambling? Nobody else in the country has legalized gambling. Well, legalize gambling. Well, there was a problem with that, in that even though there was no legalized gambling in the country, you had 3 million slot machines spread all over the country, in roadhouses and back rooms. And most of these machines were gaffed. All right? You didn't know what the hell you were playing. And most of the rest of the games were gaffed as well. In other words, gambling in a casino had a really bad name. How are they going to get around that problem? Well, this is what they would do. They set up a gaming commission on the rules of being intermediary. They would be the middleman between the player and the casino and make sure that nobody cheats anybody. And they were serious about it. If you're running a slot machine, there can be no pre-programming. The game cannot be decided until you pull the handle and the reels spin, and then the decision is made of what's going to come up, whether you win or lose. You can't do it any other way. If you're going to have a machine that plays like poker, then it has to play by the same rules. Blackjack, it has to play by the same rules and the same odds. You can't change anything of that. And the casinos had better run straight games. Cards, dice, faro cage, whatever it was. And they had plainclothesmen that would go around the state. And they'd walk into a casino, any casino, and they'd maybe play a little bit. They'd look around, and then they'd sidle over to the dice table, for example, and watch what the game was going on. And then all of a sudden they would say, hey, let me see those dice. He'd flash a badge. I want to see those dice. He gets the dice, and he has a testing thing in his pocket to test those dice. And if they don't test right, that casino is a parking lot in the morning. And that's the way it ran. The point was that you cannot deceive the player into thinking he's playing against one set of odds when he's playing against a different set of odds. Well, the problem with slot machines is that there's only so many odds you can get built into a mechanical machine. If you have a 20-stop, 3-reel machine, it's 20 times 20 times 20 combinations. That's 8,000. How big a jackpot can you pay when there's only 8,000 combinations? 1,000 coins, that's it. And where do you get those 1,000 coins? By diminishing the payout and all the lesser pays. Because the way a slot machine works, typically, is that if you were to cycle through all of the possible combinations, one tick at a time, until you had cycled through all 8,000 combinations. You would have 8,000 coins in the machine as the equivalent. Out of that 8,000 combinations, you would have about you would have 1,000 winners typically. Each winner paying an average of, let's say, 7 coins. So you'd wind out with 8,000 in and 7,000 out. But nothing's decided in advance. You could hit 6 jackpots in a row. The machine could sit there for 6 months and not hit a jackpot. It's purely random. That's the way it had to be. Once they went to electronic reels, that's fine. It stopped people from fiddling with the reels in the machine and slot cheats were a regular profession. All right. But what they did was the reels are electronic with 20 stops, and then they would tell the reels where to stop according to the random spin of the electronic reels. But then, what if we take this a step further and change it from 20 stops in our electronic reel to 256 stops? Now your odds are in the billions. You could pay the deed to the casino if the guy hit the winner. All right? And still make money. Okay? The problem is the player thinks he's playing against 8,000 to 1 odds when he's really playing against 6 billion to 1 odds. And that was against the law. Only today it's the rule of the game. And both my boss and I decided this wasn't a game we wanted to play in. So with all the effort that we put in, he probably paid out about $150,000 for me to build that machine. He backed away, but he was quite impressed with what I'd accomplished. And I then became the company's chief engineer, which is not bad on a high school diploma. Okay? And for the next 16 years, I was their chief engineer. I was their chief engineer because I was the only engineer. I was the chief draftsman for the same reason. A small company, okay? Just the company I could work in and build the kind of product I wanted to build from beginning to end, just like I was God. It was perfect. But I finally got my paws on building a slot machine from beginning to end. And it was gratifying, all right? I came up with several other designs along the way and have since tried very often to interest people, and I've never succeeded, unfortunately. But the world of slot machines has always fascinated me. And of course I learned the history of it and Charlie Fay and his invention of the machine in the 1890s, and went on from there.